Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report. This is the space where we bring you Black America's headline news, views, and opinions. I'm Romeo.
Hey there, I'm Brooke.
I'm Demi. And on today's report, Tamir Rice's mother fights to keep the former officer who fatally shot her son from getting his job back. 5 people were arrested in connection with the shooting of UK Black Lives Matter activist. And rapper Lil Baby meets with Vice President Kamala Harris.
We're going to break down why a county in South Carolina has to pay out $10 million to a black family. We're talking even more about Karine Jean-Pierre's history-making day in the White House press briefing room, and we have an update on the mass shooting in San Jose, California.
Yes, we do. We have all of that and so much more. It's our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
Tamir Rice's mother is asking the Ohio Supreme Court to block former Cleveland police officer Timothy Loehmann's attempt to get his job back. Loehmann shot and killed 12-year-old Tamir Rice back in 2014. Now, Loehmann was fired from the force more than 2 years after the shooting. We'll talk about that in a bit. Attorneys for Samaria Rice filed an amicus brief this week saying Loehmann should never again be trusted with a badge and a gun. Rice, you'll remember, was killed on a playground near a swing set. Police were called to the scene by someone who said they saw a person pointing a gun at people. The issue there, Tamir had a toy gun the whole time, and also the 911 call taker also got in trouble because the person who took the 911 call never told police that the caller who reported the person with the gun also said it's likely a child. But you'll remember everyone was upset because the police immediately pulled up and he was shot within seconds.
Yeah, that's right.
But I need to talk about Loehmann and why he was fired and why it took so long, because he actually was not fired because of this shooting at all. Loehmann was fired, and this is information from the Cleveland Plain Dealer. He was fired for lying on his CPD application. A couple of things they said he did wrong, essentially lying by commission. Investigators say he lied about his stint at another police department. So he had worked at another local police department, I want to say Independence Police Department. And the issue here is that he was allowed to resign from the Independence Department after 6 months because of a series of incidents where supervisors determined he was unfit to be a police officer. So he was supposed to disclose that information. Also, Cleveland officials say that he was supposed to disclose in his application that he failed a written exam to try to work as an officer at another department, Maple Heights. So a couple issues there. Essentially, this officer was bouncing around or attempting to and not being honest about it. And that's how he got to Cleveland in the first place.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems that we have with these officers that do wrong but continue to get a job in the same field, whether in the same city or state or elsewhere. Originally, the city of Cleveland argued in court that Tamir caused his own death. And they got a lot of backlash about that. So they backtracked on that and changed the wording on that for sure. But you got to think about there's no accountability. I mean, I'm not even sure if this officer even apologized to the family because this little boy is gone, right? His life is taken away. So lives have changed forever, from his parents to family to friends that know him and know that he should still be here today.
So I wanted to bring to attention, you guys, a very powerful piece of an interview that Samaria Rice did with The Cut. So she, we've talked about this a little bit about how she kind of lashed out, if you will, on social media and called out different activists. What she calls, what is the word that she used? Monopolizing the movement. So she did this interview with The Cut that was so very powerful. I don't have a time to go into all of it, but a couple of things that I want to talk about. She talks about having her son's death instantly being politicized and the critiques of the prominent activists that she's criticized. So she says that, she wants to clear it up a little bit. So she says families of those who have been killed by the police and those loved ones whose death sparked mass movements continue to navigate political misrepresentation, battle zones of police repression, homelessness, and poverty, while black, and she put in quotations, leadership that has not been selected by the masses flourishes through, and then she put in quotation marks, celebrity status. So she also called for an end to what she describes as celebrity activism culture that allows public figures to, and then she put in quotations again, hustle black death. And so it was so extremely powerful. So if you get a chance, just Google Samaria Rice and then The Cut, and it'll come up. It's very long, extremely powerful, because I think a lot of times, Brooke, I'm glad you gave the backstory, but a lot of times we don't get a chance to talk about what these families are going through in the present day. And I kind of want to clear it because even I said, Samaria, maybe she shouldn't have lashed out. I remember saying that. I remember saying when she with Tamika Mallory, I said on the show, I was like, well, I feel like there was a different way she could have said it. But when she puts it this way about what she's really experiencing, it really makes you feel a little bit, it makes me feel a little bit more deeper for this family. So I just want to bring that to the table because I thought it was very powerful.
Okay, great. All right, an employee who gunned down 9 people at California Railyard and then killed himself as law enforcement rushed in had talked about killing people at work more than a decade ago, his ex-wife said. The gunman had 2 semi-automatic handguns and 11 loaded magazines, the shift told NBC's Today Show on Thursday. A locker at the Railyard believed to be the gunman's contained materials for bombs, detonator cords, and the precursors to an explosive, Smith said. The number of people fatally shot by the gunman rose from 8 after the Santa Clara County's medical examiner coroner late Wednesday confirmed the death of 49-year-old Alex Ward Fritsch. He had been wounded and hospitalized in critical condition after the attack. The sheriff's office is next door to the Railyard, which serves a county of more than 1 million people in the heart of Silicon Valley. 232, that's a 232nd mass shooting already. 17 shootings within the past week. Now, they're saying the gunman had pretty much targeted his victims because he walked past several and ended up shooting, we're talking 39 rounds. So if you look at the numbers, like I was looking at a particular day, like on May 16th, there was 5 shootings that day, 3 in Georgia, 1 in Ohio, 1 in Michigan. As our cities and states in this country begins to open back up, it's scary to even want to travel or go places. I'm hearing about brawls at water parks, people fighting it. I just saw a baseball game where the Astros took on the Angels and Astros took on the Dodgers. And there was a game there, a fight there in the stands. There's so much going on. It makes you nervous about what's going on in our world today.
You know, this honestly didn't feel more about opening up. This to me seemed like more of an internal problem. The scary part about this is when you go to work, you expect to come back home to your families. So first things first, prayers and condolences out to the very innocent families and victims of this heinous crime. But more importantly, the scary thing, like I said, is that, you know, like you said, Romeo, 10 years ago, he made claims that he wanted to kill people at work. But then there were also coworkers of his more recently that said that they wouldn't even speak to him. They were like, they would say hello, he wouldn't reply. So he yelled at someone, told them to get back, and they just don't speak to him anymore. But you can't necessarily fire a person because they could be technically having a bad day. Right. You know, so it's just really scary. I just was really scared because it just makes you really just afraid to be around people. Like you said, Romeo.
Gotta be careful.
You just really have to be careful because you really just don't know what's going on in a person's mind. You know?
W. Kamau Bell actually tweeted something that I thought was interesting. He said, 9 people were shot and killed after the shooting in San Jose yesterday. We've been trained to think of these things as random and unpredictable. And then he said, that's not true. And he kind of tied in, I'm just going to read this excerpt that he posted. The strong association between firearms, domestic violence, and additional victimization suggests prioritization of measures to decrease access to firearms to perpetrators of domestic violence may also reduce the incidence of mass shootings. So saying that, essentially, in a lot of these instances, you could have known that someone was capable of this. And then, of course, we have his ex-wife in this instance saying he was violent, he was scary. I haven't talked to him in 13 years, but he used to always talk about killing people at work, shooting people at work. And again, this is just the suspect here. But that's, I think that's striking that someone is saying, hey, listen, this is not as random, and kind of tying into what Demi said, saying, an expert saying this is not as random as people would like to think. These are things that we should look deeper into to figure out how to prevent.
Brooke, I think you're absolutely right. There are always signs. All right, guys. So 5 people have been arrested in connection with the Sunday shooting of UK Black Lives Matter activist Sasha Johnson. London's Metropolitan Police said in a statement that a 17-year-old was arrested on Tuesday on suspicion of possession of an offensive weapon, on possession with intent to supply a Class A drugs. 3 other men, ages 18, 19, and 28, were later arrested on suspicion of affray or fighting in a public space and for possessing with intent to supply Class B drugs. A 5th man was arrested Tuesday evening following a police pursuit of a car. He was also arrested on suspicion of affray and failing to stop for police. All 5 suspects, none of whom were named, remain in custody, police say. So this was interesting online. So you guys know the first thing I do is run to the internet. I love to see what Black Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, what everyone is saying. So I saw so many crazy headlines about this. I saw, just to read a couple, Sasha Johnson spends her life condemning white people, gets shot in the head by 4 black men. I saw Sasha Johnson was shot by our own community. Will we be out in the streets like we were when police do the same? I saw black on black crime. I mean, the racists really came out for this, and it was very, very shocking. And what I want to say to those people that might be watching Fox Soul's Black Report is that although allegedly these four black men, because I haven't seen the race of them, they just named their ages, allegedly were black men, let's not let this take away from all the great that she's done for our community, and it's unfortunate that if these are 4 black men, let's not let that overshadow the work that she has done for Black Lives Matter and black people in the community. I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
The Atlanta Journal-Constitution is reporting an Atlanta mayoral candidate had his car stolen while speaking to a business owner after a ribbon-cutting ceremony. All right, according to the police report, City Councilman Antonio Brown had his Mercedes stolen when 4 suspects jumped into the car. Brown says it happened after an event marking the opening of a Dunkin' and Baskin-Robbins store. The AJC reports violent crime is on the rise this year in the city, and police figures show homicides are up 52% compared to this time last year, while shootings have increased more than 40%. So people are, there are many people making this, tying this into the fact that Brown on the council voted to defund the police and instead wanting millions of dollars to be spent in other forms of public services. He is keeping that exact same energy because the New York Post has reported that police found his car, but Brown does not want these kids arrested or charged. Right. He said that he believes they acted out of desperation. This is what this man said. He said, this is a generational poverty issue. These kids, it's 12:30 in the afternoon. Why aren't they in school? Why aren't we enforcing systems to ensure that if they are not in school, they're in recreational centers?
Some would applaud him for saying that, that is for sure, and feeling that way. But then you think about my good friend Akon, what happened to his SUV not too long ago in Atlanta, gets stolen in the middle of the night. A friend of mine in St. Louis, he left his car for literally 10 seconds. He was unloading, went from the driveway of the hotel to the door, and it was gone already. Obviously, crime is truly up, so you have to be careful out there, soulmates, and be smart about leaving your keys in the car, even leaving it running too.
Yeah, I want to talk about that though, because I think that's an interesting point. That especially because people are tying in him voting to defund the police. So cars have always been stolen.
Yes.
And they're going to continue to be stolen. And so police presence doesn't prevent cars from being stolen. Right. At best, police can help you get your car found. They can help arrest the killer. The thief.
Yes.
But it doesn't prevent other people from stealing cars. And so he's saying, I have an option that will prevent people from stealing cars. In the instance of kids, it gets them in, it takes care of them so they're not out on the streets committing crimes. In the instance of poor adults, it gets them jobs, gets food in their mouths, money in their pocket. So do you think that that's an important aspect of this?
No, I really do. I mean, there was an incident where a guy at a restaurant, remember when someone came to rob and they found out who it was, he said, I don't want him arrested. He offered him a job, saying, how can we make this situation right? Because putting you behind bars is not going to necessarily fix the problem. So I do understand where he's coming from.
You know what, guys? I've gotten my car broken into, not stolen, but I can just say that there is such an emptiness and a violation of privacy that happens when your private property is vandalized or stolen, that it's hard for me to sit here and say, regardless of age, that I would take it lightly, someone breaking into my personal property. I'm more so, I understand what he's saying, because I was going to read that same quote, Brooke, why are they not in school? That's more so where are your parents? Where are your family? At these ages, where are your family? I don't know if I would take it easy because of their age, because when my personal property was vandalized, I was just truly devastated. So I don't know how I would feel.
No, you should feel some type of way. Yeah, that's the initial instinct. That is for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Well, okay, because I don't think he's taking it lightly. I think he's saying this is a problem and I'm trying to figure out how to fix it. And I think he's saying, so putting them in the prison system has shown us that that's not going to fix it. It's not necessarily, he doesn't believe it's going to rehabilitate them exactly, that it's going to probably perpetuate more crime, put them in a position to even be worse off. Gotcha. Let's figure out how to make sure that they actually stop doing this. I don't know. I think it's interesting, especially coming from the perspective, because we always talk about this. We say activists say this, police advocates say this, but what happens when this happens to you? And so I think it's interesting that this is coming from the perspective of someone that this actually happened to.
Yeah. It takes a lot for them to be that. You're right.
I don't know. I'm interested. We all are.
Moving on. The family of Matthew Williams will meet with DeKalb's district attorney, Sherry Boston, about recently released body camera footage into his death. Here's Portia Berner from Fox Atlanta with the details.
Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down!
When DeKalb County Police released these body camera videos of the April 12th encounter with Matthew Zadok Williams, they said the 35-year-old refused to drop a knife he retrieved from his home, even after repeated requests to drop the weapon. They say he lunged at an officer with the knife, compelling one officer to shoot and miss, while Williams ran back into his condominium, where he was shot and fatally wounded.
He was not lunging. There is nothing about any of his actions that led to the shooting that was inconsistent with what he had previously done as he was talking to the officers. There are videos that you have not even had a chance to watch that tells a much more complete, disturbing, and heinous story.
Williams' mother is a retired registered nurse who says she has seen many gunshot patients with wounds comparable to what her son suffered based on her hired independent pathologist report. Chris Ann Lewis says her son also suffered from mental health issues and questions why DeKalb police did not verify her son was the homeowner and not a vagrant prowler, as a 911 caller reportedly suggested.
They came to my front door 24 hours after he was dead. I was wondering why I hadn't heard from him to tell me that my son was homeless and had broken into an apartment. And I was like, what? No, what's his address? That's his home. 24 hours later, they still haven't figured out that he owned that property where he was shot and left to lay on his foyer.
When do you anticipate getting a final report from the GBI, and then what happens next?
We don't have an anticipation date.
DeKalb District Attorney Sherry Boston says she and her investigators will review the GBI report, witness statements, police statements, and all of the body camera video and audio. She says her meeting Wednesday with the family was designed to give the Williams family a chance to express their concerns. And she says her message to the family and the public is clear.
Doesn't matter if the death ends at the hands of a stranger or if the death ends in the hands of someone wearing a uniform. We are going to give it the same amount of priority. We're going to give it the same level of impartiality and give no favor to any organization.
All right, guys, checking in with our YouTube soulmates here. So Be It One says, if he was unfit to be an officer, how can he even apply to get his job back? Sean Scott says, the world is so dark and people are acting really mean and hateful more now since COVID-19. Incock says, no one gets to tell a mother who loses a child how to react. Maria Rice is fed up and she has every right to go off on someone and any of these activist pimps. Soulmates, keep it rolling in. Romeo's going to let us know what's coming up next.
Coming up, a county reaches settlement in a jail black man's death, and Dylan Roof appeals his death sentence. We have those stories next on Fox Soul's Black Report.